Hello friends, today I'm going to teach you how to successfully make a beautiful batch of Lactobacillus reuteri or Gasseri yogurt. You can use this method for either one. The first thing that you're going to do is you're going to make sure that you thoroughly wash all of your equipment. So if you're going to be using spoons to mix things, whisks to mix things, doesn't matter what it is, you're going to want to wash them really well. And the reason why we want to do that is because we want to remove any contaminants or bacteria that could be on your dishes that could compete with your probiotic, okay? We don't want to make the probiotic work harder. We want to make the probiotic grow. So the very first thing you're going to do is you're going to wash that. Now I have this on warm water. I'm going to test my water to make sure it's under 100 degrees, and right now it's saying 107. So I'm going to dial that down just for a minute. Okay, so now we're under 99. So I'm going to take my warm water that is under 100 and I'm going to place it into my ultimate yogurt maker. And I'm actually going to put that just above the temperature gauge because that's typically the right place that you're going to need it in order to cover all of your yogurt if you're doing half jars. If you're doing something that's more than that, then obviously you would need to fill it a little fuller. Okay, so then I'm going to set my temperature on my yogurt maker to 99 degrees. And I'm going to set my timer to either 18 hours, which is what I like to do mine. But if you want to do yours at 36 hours, you can do that at 36 hours. So I'm going to go ahead and just set it for 36 hours. And then I'm going to put my lid on top of my yogurt maker so that when I have my yogurt ready to go in here, all my temperature is level and even. Step number 2 is to set your oven to 250 degrees. You're going to place all of your jars or equipment that you're going to use, stirrers, spoons, anything that might be metal or glass, into the oven, and you're going to allow it to bake for 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, you're going to shut your oven off. You're going to open your door up and you're going to allow all of your equipment to cool down. The reason why we want to sterilize our equipment at 250 degrees for 10 minutes is to kill off any competing bacteria that may compete with your Lactobacillus probiotic. Next, you're going to heat your milk or your cream up to at least 195 degrees. Right here I have 200 degrees, which is fine. From this point, I'm going to allow my milk to cool off to under 100 degrees before I begin to add my probiotics, my inulin, my lactose, or whatever else I'm going to put in this. While this is cooling off, I'm also going to allow my equipment to cool off before all this is done. So now everything up to this point will be prepared together for sterilization. Now the reason why you want to heat your milk is for several reasons. Number one, it denatures the protein. So it's going to make your yogurt a lot thicker, and it's going to make even a first batch of Lactobacillus reuteri or Lactobacillus gasseri to turn out thick. You're not going to have any whey issues, etc. Okay, so it's really important that you heat your milk up to 195 degrees and then allow it to cool down until just under 100 degrees. My 10-minute timer for my sterilization has gone off, so I'm going to turn my oven off, and I'm going to open my oven door to allow my equipment to cool down so that when I go to put my yogurt, once it's prepared, into these dishes, it's not too hot, right? Because if there's too much heat on these and that heat is above 100 degrees, you can have a chance of killing off your bacteria and making it less successful. So make sure that you cool this down. Another step that I take while I am making the L Reuteri or the L Gasseri yogurt is that I turn my AC off. The reason why I turn my AC off and I make sure all my fans or any blowing air is off is because I do not want to contaminate what I just sterilized with anything that may be coming from moving air. Okay, so again, if you're trying to make the most absolute successful batch of L Reuteri or L Gasseri, you need to have your environment as sterile as possible. And you can actually make your very first batch without a whey separation doing this method. Okay, my milk has now cooled down to 102 degrees. So while it's continuing to cool to go under 100 degrees, I'm going to go ahead and start the process of mixing my dry ingredients. Okay, I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of the super lactose. I purchased this off of Amazon. And the reason why I am using the lactose is because any type of lactobacillus probiotic will feed and multiply off of lactose. So basically what it does, well, that's a little bit more, but that's okay. Basically what it does is it gives it energy to grow. So it's going to help it multiply. And lactose is also in milk. It's also in half and half. It's also in protein powder. Okay. This is what is going to help give your lactobacillus energy. I'm also going to be adding 1 tablespoon of inulin. This is something that is recommended by the person that came up with this recipe. I have made it with just the lactose, and I've made it with the lactose and the inulin, and I've made it with just the inulin. Honestly, it all turns out the same. But what is great about the inulin is that it is also a prebiotic. So a probiotic, when it gets in the gut, it will break down and work better in the gut when when a prebiotic is included with it. And so that is what the inulin is. So now I have my Reuteri tablets, okay? This is one of the ones I'm going to use today. I have 2 different brands that I like to use. And I'm going to open this tablet up, and I'm going to place it inside. Now, this is your bacteria. This is your Lactobacillus reuteri, okay? And so this is a dry ingredient. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix all this dry ingredient together so that it blends before I put my liquid in there. So I have seen other people say that if they blend the dry ingredients together first, that it works better. So I've just taken their advice, and this is just what I've done, and I've never had a batch that has failed me. Okay, so I'm blending all that together, and now I'm going to take a little bit of my milk that has cooled down, and I'm going to add that into that bowl. I'm not going to pour all of it in there. I'm just going to pour a little bit in there to get my mix going, okay? So what I want to do, or what you want to do, is make sure that when you blend all this together, all these dry ingredients, that there's nothing that has clumped together on the bottom, okay? Because you want to make sure that the prebiotics, the energy from the lactose, and the probiotic mix very well together, right? And you want to make sure that there's no clumping, because sometimes the inulin, because it's kind of sticky, it can cause clumping. But you can see in that, this is beautiful, right? We've got a little bit of clumping down there at the bottom, so I'm gonna work on that a little bit. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fill this all the way up to my 32 ounces, because I'm going to make several different batches with several different probiotics. And so all right, so I have filled that to my 32 ounces. And now I'm going to mix this again. Okay. All right, so if you were making a starter batch, this is what you would do. Okay. And then you would take that and you would put it into your jars, and you would set your temperature to 99 degrees. And I would recommend that your starter batch cook at 18 hours. I think that you'll have a better success with no separation if you cook it at 18 hours. That's just what I have done, and I found very good success with that. Now I'm going to take a batch that I made recently, and I kind of want to show you this batch. This batch was made with milk, Fairlife milk, whole milk. And I added some whey protein powder, just plain whey protein powder into it, and I cooked it. And when it did that, it caused the whey protein to denature. And so when whey protein denatures a lot, it can kind of make little rubbery balls. So it takes the protein and it kind of makes it a little bit rubbery. But I want you to see how thick this was. So this yogurt tastes perfectly fine. Okay, it has more protein in it and it has more denatured protein in it. So when protein is denatured like that, okay, it will actually cause it to digest slower, so it makes you feel fuller longer. It is a little gritty and it does have a little bit of rubbery feel in it. So if you don't like that, you know, no worries. But since this is my last batch, I'm going to dump this into here because I always dump a portion of my last batch into my new batch. Even though I've used a tablet of the Reuteri, it's just what I do because I want to make sure that I have a lot of bacteria that's going to feed on all that wonderful lactose that I put in there. Okay, so I'm going to take my, let me get a bigger one. I'm going to take my larger whisk, and I did sterilize all this, okay, before I used it, and I'm going to mix all this together. Now, because I had some of that protein powder in there from my last batch, there might be a couple of larger chunks that you might see come out of this when I go to pour it in. You see that? It's not a big deal. It's not going to hurt you. It's simply protein. It's still going to feed your body. It's still going to break down, and it's still going to nourish you with really good protein to help with your muscles and things. So don't worry about that if you decide to use whey protein in your Lactobacillus reuteri. Personally, I didn't love the texture of it, so I'm not going to do it again after I do this batch. But I'm simply just using up what I have. And I'm also trying to create myself another jar. All right, so I'm going to take this batch right here, and I am now going to pour it into each one of these jars. I'm actually going to skip this line. It says 100 mils. And I'm going to take it all the way up to 180 mil, and that will use up pretty much all of this. And then when I'm done with that, I will bring you back in and show you what that looks like. So I stand completely corrected. I was a little surprised. The 32 ounces, because I didn't add this up, I was just assuming. The 32 ounces only filled up 5 jars. So I'm going to fill up the rest of my jars with my other Lactobacillus reuteri probiotic that I have. All right, now I'm going to take 5 of these probiotics. This is Lactobacillus reuteri as well, and it comes in tablet form like this. This was the very original Lactobacillus reuteri that was used in this formulation. And I'm going to take 5 of these, and I'm going to crush it up in here. I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of the super lactose and 1 tablespoon of the inulin. When I'm done with that, I'll bring you back in. Okay, I have crushed up my Lactobacillus reuteri tablets, and now I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of inulin, and then I'm also going to add 1 tablespoon of the lactose. Remember, the lactose is going to be used as energy. It's going to be converted into lactic acid, and it will also bring the pH of your yogurt, because this, when it ferments, and just in general, pH of the yogurt should be around 4 to 4.5. in your final product. So I'm going to stir all this together really nicely. And again, we want to make sure that we're blending that probiotic up really well with our prebiotics, right? So we have our prebiotic and our inulin, and we also have our lactose as lots of food, lots of wonderful food for our probiotic to grow on. So now that I have done that, I'm now going to add some of my milk. And I'm going to whisk this together. And again, we want to whisk it together really well so that the prebiotics and the probiotics blend very well within the milk. Now, you don't want to put this in a blender because the blender will create heat. And if the heat exceeds the temperature that L Reuteri gets killed at, then you're going to kill your probiotic, because that blender is going to be so hot, right, that it's going to kill the probiotic. That's why you want to use a whisk, okay? So I have that blended really nicely, and I'm going to fill this up with milk. This is actually half and half milk and cream mixed together. I don't know how much I have left, not a whole lot. All right, so it looks like I have about 500 mils left, and 2 cups, which is about 16 ounces. So I'm going to mix this together really well again. And if you're making this for the first time and you're wanting to use these particular tablets, again, you can take this mixture as it is, put it into your jars, put it at 99 degrees, and you can cook it up to 36 hours, but I highly recommend that you only do 18 hours to give yourself a really good, successful batch. Now, I'm going to take part of my old batch. This is the L Reuteri from my last batch, and I just want to show you how creamy and beautiful that is. Okay, this is with that tablet, and I'll tell you why I like this particular tablet. It gives it kind of a fruity flavor. It has a little bit of a mint behind it as well. But when you mix like a little sweetener in it, I like to mix monk fruit extract in with it. It makes the absolute best dessert you've ever had in your life. It's so good. So the other tablet, in my opinion, is really creamy, like a cottage cheese creamy kind of taste. So the taste between the two of them are very different. And that's why I like to use both, just to give myself a little bit of variety there. So I'm going to take my previous batch mixed with my new batch here. We're going to blend all that together because we want to get all the good stuff, right, mixed together. So we're taking our previously fermented yogurt and we're mixing it with our new batch to make sure that we get lots and lots of good probiotic within our yogurt. So it's just going to make it, you know, stronger, multiply in that area. All right, so I'm going to take that and I'm going to pour it into these jars, and then I'll come back. Okay, I'm now ready to put my jars into my yogurt maker. So you can see that we have condensation on the top of this. So what I did was I started this at 99 degrees because I wanted to make sure that when I immerse my yogurt that is now at room temperature and put it into here, everything starts at basically the same temperature or very close to the same temperature. So I'm going to put our jars in, and I'm going to tell you the reason why I like the small jars better than the big jar. So the small jars are individual serving sizes. Once you get to the point to where you can have a cup of L Reuteri yogurt, your serving sizes will be like this, right? But what I like about it is that lactobacillus probiotics react to oxygen, meaning air. So every time you open up a large bowl of it with a lid, you're actually putting air into that bowl, which sort of like diminishes your shelf life a little bit. So when you put it into the individual containers like this and you have the lids on it, once I am done with this, I will transfer this into the refrigerator and not open that lid. So do not open the lid, right? Because if you open the lid because you're so curious to see what it looks like, you're going to put oxygen into that. So you want to keep that in there and then allow it to cool down overnight, and then you can start eating your L Reuteri yogurt. So you take out your individual one, and then you're not exposing the rest of it to air. So that is the reason why I personally like the smaller yogurts better. So in here, because I filled it up where I did, I don't have quite enough water. So I'm going to turn my water on here real quick. I'm going to give it a test and see what the temperature is like. I'm going to fill it up and show you what that looks like. Okay, so I measured the temperature of my water. It was right around 92 degrees, which is great. I went ahead and put it in here because what you're wanting is everything to be really close within range. And I filled it up to the line of where my yogurt is at. That way, when it is in this incubator, right, this cooker, it cooks evenly all the way around. So I'm going to let this yogurt actually cook for 18 hours because that's where I personally like to cook my yogurt at. But if you wanted to, you could set it to 36 hours and, you know, go farther with it if you wanted. So I will bring you back in after this has cooked at 99 degrees for 18 hours and show you what it looks like. Okay, it has been 17 and a half hours and I pulled the yogurt out, and I just want you to see how it looks. Okay, so as I pull these out, you can see that the yogurt is completely formed at 17 and a half hours. If you want to go the full 36 hours, you know, that's up to you. But I have found that 18 hours provides a yogurt that does not separate at all. I have zero whey. You see that? Now I have put the yogurt into my refrigerator. I'm going to let this cool off overnight because as it cools down, it will stop fermenting. So you have to allow the fermentation process to stop. And then your yogurt is going to be ready to eat. I hope that you've enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope that you have found it helpful. Okay, I wanted to show you how this yogurt turned out when I used this probiotic. Here is the yogurt. It has been in the refrigerator since I took it out at 7:30 this morning, and it's been in there for about 12 hours. So you can see just how creamy it is. I like to mix it with an apple. So I like to dip it like this and then eat it. It's really tasty. So here's the jar. And here is the probiotic. Okay, I wanted to show you how the Lactobacillus reuteri yogurt turned out when I used my reuteri. This is the yogurt. You can see that there's absolutely no whey separation, none, right? Using the method that I have been doing. Here is the yogurt itself. So I mixed it together just a little bit just so you could see what it looks like. So I'm going to taste this and I'm going to tell you how it tastes. I love it. This one is so good. It has a little bit of a sour, not sour, but a little bit of a tart, just very small tart taste, but it's creamy like cottage cheese. And it's addicting. So I like to eat mine with apples because apples are a fantastic prebiotic to go with your probiotic because they contain pectin and they contain fiber. And apples actually break down your intestines differently. So you can read about that if you want to Google how do apples help the gut microbiome. It's really fascinating when you read about it. There's quite a few things that you can read about. But that is the reason why I like to combine my apple with my Lactobacillus reuteri or Lactobacillus gasseri or any other yogurt that I might have that's a prebiotic or a probiotic. So I eat other yogurts besides these. But that is why I really particularly like the apple or the jicama. Jicama is kind of the same way. It's a fantastic prebiotic for your probiotic. I hope that you found this video to be helpful. And I hope that as you're on your journey with your yogurt making, that some of the tips and tricks that I have learned and have observed from many, many people that do a lot of fermentation processes in foods will help you make very successful batches. Thank you for watching, and give me a thumbs and a like and share this with other people that might be, in the yogurt making process so that they can make successful batches on the first batch. If you want to further watch this video, the only thing that I'm including are the many different batches that I have made using different methods, so that you can see how it works when you use just the lactose, when you use just the inulin, when you use, whey protein powder. I'm not a fan of the whey protein powder because it's very gritty, and I'm not going to do that again. So I'm not going to recommend that, but what I wanted to show you was that it still turned out. It did taste differently. It tasted more bland, but I also used whole milk and I didn't use half and half. So I don't know if that's the reason why. I don't know if I over fermented it. When I did the whey, I only did it for 10 hours because whenever you have a yogurt that has less fat in it, it will solidify much faster. And a lot of people use 6 to 8 hours when they use whole milk. I just happened to be gone, and when I came back, I was like, oh my gosh, I got to get this out of here. So it turned out really, really thick, and it had a lot of chunks in it. But that was because of the whey protein, not because I cooked it for 10 hours. So, and I did all of my yogurts in the videos that you're going to see after this at 99 degrees. But I wanted you to see it if you're interested, just so you know exactly what a first batch is going to look like and how batches after that come together. I've also found that when I didn't have 32 ounces and I mixed the lactose and the inulin in it, and I was short on that, which you saw that on one of my videos, I was short. That yogurt turned out a lot more acidic in my mouth. So I'm going to make sure that I have enough milk or cream or half and half mixture, whatever I'm using, to make sure that I get a full 32 ounces when I combine that together. I'm guessing it's just because the probiotic had so much lactose to feed on that it was just very, very acidic. I'm going to assume that. So that's something maybe you can look up and research if you're interested. Anyway, I hope that you've enjoyed this series with me. I've enjoyed learning how to make it, and I'm enjoying sharing what I have learned with those that are interested in this type of subject. So anyway, if you like it, definitely share it with others, and it's been a pleasure helping you make your own yogurt. Have an awesome day. Okay, I wanted to share with you a new recipe that I tried because I wanted to try to add more protein powder into the L Reuteri yogurt. So this is a whey protein powder that is pure. The only thing that it has in it is soy lecithin. So it is pure, non-flavored whey powder. I put 2 scoops of this into 32 ounces of this, and I heated it up. One of the things that I noticed when I heated it up was that it formed some harder, I guess, protein things inside of it, but I just kept mixing it, okay? And I heated my milk up to 195 degrees. I let it cool to 186. I heated it to 195 again because I wanted to make sure that when I did my yogurt, I got a really thick yogurt, okay? And I cooked it for 10 hours at 99 degrees. I added 1 capsule of my Reuteri along with my last batch, and I also did 1 tablespoon of the inulin. And I wanted to kind of just see how it would turn out. So I cooked it last night, and you can kind of see it's seems a little chunky. And my guess is that's all that protein powder. So I'm going to try to mix it real quick to see if I can get it to smooth out. I don't know if it will or not because I put quite a bit of protein powder in it. And I wanted to see what it would do. It's not too bad. It's just kind of thick. It's actually really thick. So I'm going to take a bite of this and I'm going to see what it tastes like. So let's see what it smells like. So it smells really good. It just smells like super fresh dairy. So I'm going to taste this. I'm going to see what it tastes like. Feels a little grainy. And again, that's all that extra protein that I put in there. Tastes the same to me. I let it cool overnight, so it's been in the refrigerator for about 10 hours. I'm going to say the only difference is it's not as smooth and creamy because it has a little bit of graininess in it because of the protein powder I stuck in it. But it still worked. I probably wouldn't do two scoops if I were to do it again. Maybe one. I don't know. But I was just kind of playing around to see what it might do. And to see what it would taste like and see if it will make me fuller. If I were to eat this, would it make me fuller because it had more protein in it? So if you're interested in doing this, it does work, and I hope this is informative. So I took the yogurt out of the yogurt maker at 17.5 hours, and you see how solid this is? And then I put it in the refrigerator. It's been in there since 1 o'clock yesterday, and it's around 8 o'clock in the morning. So this is the L Reuteri, and this is where we mixed it with the inulin. You can see just how solid that is. So I'm going to open these up, and we're going to take a look. So here's the L Reuteri. See how thick that is? And here is the Lactobacillus reuteri. So now we're going to do a small taste test. You see how creamy that is? That's the L Reuteri. And here's the L Reuteri. All right, so I added the lactose, the super lactose into this. So this is the L Reuteri. I'm going to taste that and see what it tastes like. Tastes really fresh. Wouldn't say it's super creamy. It has a little bit of tartness to it with creamy undertones of maybe cottage cheese. And this is the L Reuteri. Oh, wow. I don't even know how to describe the taste of this one. Honestly, I feel like I can taste a little bit of the orange mint flavoring that they have in the Reuteri tablets that I used. It's very, very mild. It's good. Like it tastes really, really good, but wow, that is way different in taste than the other ones. That's very interesting. So if you want to kind of vary up your yogurt tastes, you can definitely try things like this. I'm going to try some more experiments where I'm going to add some whey protein powder to see if I can up the protein content and things like that and see if it will even turn out. So stay tuned and follow me on my experimentations on fermenting different probiotics and yogurts, and we'll see what they taste like. But yeah, I highly recommend either one of these. They taste really good. It turned out great using the lactose as well as the inulin. I think the inulin is probably giving it a little bit more of a tart taste, I'm guessing, and the lactose is probably what gives it a little bit more of a creamy taste. Again, that is just a complete guess. I would have to make them completely separate to be able to be 100% sure on that. Anyway, I hope you enjoy it. In this video, I'm going to make a third batch of the L Reuteri or Lactobacillus reuteri fermented dairy. I am going to use the A2 half and half. I'm also going to feed it with some super lactose as well as some inulin, because I have read that it really likes to feed off of lactose. So I'm going to try that in this batch. And I'm also going to try this particular brand. This was the original brand that was recommended making the L Reuteri. And the strains that are on this brand right here are the Lactobacillus DSM 1793-8, as well as the ATCC PTA 6475 strain. So the reason why I wanted to try this strain was because anytime you use a different strain, it kind of affects the taste. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I am going to do a tablespoon of the lactose in here. I took 5 tablets of this and I crushed it up, and that's what's in this bowl already. And then I'm going to take a tablespoon of the inulin, and I'm going to mix that in there as well. So with that, I'm going to take and I'm going to stir all this up really, really well as a dry ingredient, because what I want to do is I want to mix the probiotic in with the prebiotics. So your prebiotics are going to be your inulin and your lactose. And so anything lactobacillus really likes to feed off of lactose, really. And I'm going to try these two because I'm experimenting with taste, number one. Number two, I am seeing if I do this combination, you know, what kind of final outcome am I going to have. I've kind of been experimenting doing it with just the lactose as well as doing it with just the inulin. When I made the L Reuteri version, I had really good luck at using just 1 tablespoon of the inulin with 1 capsule of the my L Reuteri and cooking it up to 18 hours at 99 degrees, and it produced a really beautiful yogurt. Even on my first try, the fermented dairy was very firm and creamy. My second batch was even creamier, and I'm going to show you what that second batch looks like. So using this particular one, right, my Reuteri, this was the batch on my second batch using the inulin. And you can see just how thick and creamy that is. So that is seriously creamy. So I'm going to take some of this, the batch that I made last time, okay, and I'm going to add it into this starter batch. I know that I have stuff in here already, but I did that last time when I made this batch, as well as using my Reuteri, and it came out really, really beautiful. So I'm going to put that in here, and now I'm going to mix in some of my milk in here. So I heated my milk up twice to 195 degrees. And the reason why I did that is because I have read that when you heat your milk up first, it will give you a firmer, more creamy final product like what you see over here. So I'm going to mix all this together really, really well. I can feel that there's still some stuff on the bottom of the bowl, so I'm trying to scrape all that off of the bottom of the bowl. And I'm also making sure that my probiotic and my prebiotic mixture is very thorough within this entire mixture here. All right, so now I'm going to add some more milk. To about right there. I'm going to stir that up really well because I'm adding a fresh batch of milk, or I should say half and half. This is the HU half and half. I shouldn't call it milk because it's half and half. Into the slurry that I made of my probiotic and my prebiotic. Okay, so I am going to put a lid on this. I'm going to put it in my yogurt maker, and I'm going to heat this to 99 degrees and cook it for 18 hours like I did last time. And I'm going to set up for the gaceri and show you the mixture with the gaceri. Okay, now we're going to make the Lactobacillus gaceri, and I'm going to make it this time using the Dr. Mercola version. So I made my original batch with the Dr. Mercola, and I did the lactose as my prebiotic, and you can see that the batch turned out really, really creamy, and I incubated it for 18 hours. I also used a different one called Smart something. I have it on another video. You can see how much more whey separation. These both cooked at the same time. I did the lactose, and this one actually, after it cooled down, tasted slightly over fermented. And I think the reason why that is because I checked it at the 12-hour mark, and this was the one that I opened up. I'm going to guess either that or this strain of that is not as stable at 18 hours. They're both eatable, but this one turned out super creamy. So we're going to make our next batch using that. So I did the same thing. I put one of these probiotic capsules of the Lactobacillus gasseri into here. I did 1 tablespoon of the Super Lactose 6270 and 1 tablespoon of the half and half. And so I have that in my little jar here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix all this up because I want, again, to mix in the dry ingredients, the probiotic with the prebiotics, right? And what I'm doing basically this time is I just want to see if I add the inulin in, will it change the flavor and make it taste better? What I don't know is a yes or no on that because I've never combined both of them together. So this is a total experimentation. So I have all this mixed here. So now I'm going to add some of my milk into that I heated up to 195 degrees twice, and then I let it cool down to under 100 degrees. So we're going to add some milk, and we are going to mix that together so we create a slurry. And again, you want to make sure that your slurry is mixed really, really well because you want to make sure that all that probiotic and prebiotic are mixing well together in your milk. So now I'm going to take a little bit of my previous batch. So here's my previous batch. You can see there is some whey separation in here, but this is super creamy for a very, very first batch. And I'm going to add in some of that into what is going to be my second batch. Now, this version right here is the Dr. Mercola that I made with just the lactose before, and it tasted much better than the Super Smart. Again, and that could be because I opened it. So anytime you expose your cooking process to air, you're adding air into the cooking process, which when you're doing these type of probiotics, you really don't want to do that. But I was just testing it to see where in the heck it was at. I didn't know, right? So the only way I could find out was to open it up to see what it was going to look like. I'm trying to get all the chunks out. So I think we've got a good mix here. So now I'm going to add this into my pot of milk that I have over here on the stove. You're not going to be able to see that in the video. And I am now going to mix together all of this so that I can put it into these 4 jars. And before you do any of this, you want to always make sure that you totally 100% sterilize everything that you're going to use. So everything that you see me using has been sterilized, whether it's my glass jars or anything like that. Okay, all of it was sterilized. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour this into my 4 little jars here. Okay, so these little jars have their own little lids, and I put a G on top of them so that when I look at what it is in the refrigerator, I know that this is Lactobacillus gasseri. I'm going to go ahead and put all these lids in, then I'm going to show you how to put it in your water bath. All right, so I preheated my water in the Ultimate Yogurt Maker to make sure that it was set at 99 degrees. And I'm going to stick these in here. And then at the end, I'm going to make sure that my water level is at the level of the yogurt. If it's not, then I'm going to add in just a little bit. And actually, I was pretty good with that. That was exciting. All right, so what I'm going to do is I am going to put this on here. I have already set it to 18 hours. And then in 18 hours, we're going to come and we're going to take a check and see if this concoction that I put together works. A lot of times people will use 2 tablespoons of inulin. So I'm kind of mixing it up a little bit and doing 1 tablespoon of the lactose as well as 1 tablespoon of the inulin, and we're going to see kind of where both of these are at in 18 hours. And again, I'm going for taste. I do know that these probiotics definitely love to feed on the lactose, so I know that what I'm doing is correct, and I want to see how it's going to turn out. So I will come back in 18 hours.